Well, hey, tall, small, and in the walls. My name is Parker Silverstein. Nice to meet you. And apparently, I've been selected next for the next OC Ask, so that is absolutely thrilling. I'm humbled to be here. I'll go ahead and jump right on into the questions. I have a number of them. Some of them have already been answered by others who have done this kind of thing before. This whole setup is a little bit new, a little bit intimidating. I'm used to, well, if you know my story, then you know I'm used to a much smaller recording space instead of the microphone the size of my body. Anyway, let's get right on into it. Well, first, I'd like to say thank you all for everyone who has been supporting my story. Getting that written actually out by Narrans has been a whirlwind and surreal experience. I didn't think that so many people would relate and get involved. I thought this was just something that would go by the wayside. Some people would like it, some people wouldn't, and the overwhelming positive responses that we've gotten on the different medias, I've got to say it's astounding, it's impressive, and I hope that you all like things that we put out in the future, because that's definitely on the agenda. Okay, jumping right into it. Shows. I've had an extreme interest recently in a few different shows, primarily forensic shows, forensic files, bones. I started watching Grey's Anatomy thinking that it was actually going to cover anatomy and physiology, and it immediately delved into interpersonal relationships in between individuals, and I, not that I don't do well with that, but with everything that I am studying, with everything that I am trying to do, I don't know if I've updated you on that particular front, but we'll get to those questions later. But essentially, trying to further my knowledge database and help as many people as possible. And with that being said, I didn't continue watching that particular show simply because it started getting into more relationship, and in theory I guess I could tie it into psychological, so maybe I will go back. I digress. For fun, Cells at Work has been another fantastic show. When I was reincarnated as a slime, surprisingly good, I must say. It was some of the others that got me turned on to this show, as well as some of my more human friends. Also, have to love the classics: Avatar: The Last Airbender, My Hero Academia. There have been a few that I have been interested in watching. The new Arcane series just came out, and I think that would be really cool to watch, but at the moment I have absolutely no free time because of my studies. Which, getting into that, things that I have been doing since the end of the book, I have been adventuring a little bit more, specifically with the two other borrowers that I met, Hero and Ray. They live not too far away, and I've actually found a massive community. There are a lot more borrowers than I thought there were. Definitely. Still getting used to all of that. The community essentially going from one place to another. I'm not supposed to say too much, obviously, but everyone's asking questions, so the distance between my house and Hero and Ray's house is considerable, but still well worth the sojourn. We end up passing through kind of like a wildlands territory, and then in the center is actually an Audi, is what it's called, AUTI, Audi community of borrowers. They all live outside. I won't go into too many details of how everything functions there, but it feels very much like, I don't know if this reference is lost on you, but it's called a feta hippie. It's Brazilian. It's a kind of fair, or like the St. James Art Fair. Many different types of craft shows that everyone is bartering, selling, trading, creating. Fascinating experience. Getting to see so many everyday items used for other things. Very cool. And then going and seeing an established home with a large community of borrowers already living inside the walls and out in the open, and getting to hear their stories, Ashlyn and Soren's story, and how they make their relationship work. And Maisie, yeah, she's really great. I really like her. She's got the same kind of background that I do. I'm getting back to the questions. Yeah, there's definitely been a transition phase, and enjoying getting to see the different communities, the different levels of community that are present for borrowers, and seeing how each group interacts differently with people. Seeing my background. For those of you who might just be jumping right on into this, I am a borrower. And for the longest time, I thought that I was a human with a particular kind of condition. When I was very young, I was told that I had a very, very rare genetic condition that is called Parvi homunculi syndrome. And it was, well, come out and say it was a lie, but it was a lie made with the intention to spare my feelings, and also not to treat me differently, especially when I started asking questions about why I was the size that I was and why I was so different from my mom, Amanda. Because she obviously was human, and she found me. For those of you who haven't heard the story, I was lost. I don't remember a lot of details about that night. I remember it was raining. I remember it was cold. I was scared. I think we were on some kind of boat. I think there was flooding, and we were on some kind of boat. All I remember is the lightning, thunder, just this crashing thunder. Evidently, I fell overboard. And when I fell overboard, I washed up on shore nearby, and I tried staying in one location, and that's where Amanda found me, my mom. For one reason or another, I think my brain suppressed that information and adopted Amanda as my new motherly figure, my mom. Because I was so young at the time, I didn't have a completely formed concept of parents. I just knew that I was cold, I was sick, I was hungry, and I guess survival kicked in, and I decided to trust her. I mean, yeah, coming from a 4, 5-ish-year-old kid, still don't actually know officially how old I am, because It's not, I don't know when my birthday is. I just know what day that my mom found me, and she treated that like my birthday. It was my save day. That's what we ended up, that's what we called it now, actually. It's my adoption day, family day. But anyway, my mom raised me as her own. She had people come and check me out. Her friend came, made sure that I was well, and together they concocted this narrative of, oh, are you are human, you just have this extremely rare condition, and other people won't really understand. And because I was so young and impressionable at the time, I accepted that as my reality, and part of me still accepts that as reality. There are some days where I do feel more human than borrower. Many days, actually. And I think that's okay. Overall, what matters at the end of the day is that I have family. I have family now. I have a home. I have friends, both human and borrower. I have all different types of people who I get to talk to on a daily basis. And it hasn't stopped me from educating myself. It hasn't stopped me from doing the things that I want to do. There are a few things, obviously, that I can't physically go and do. I'm currently in a medical school program, hence all of the the shows that I've been interested in recently. Also, side note, Mythbusters. I have a soft spot in my heart for their experimentations and their out of the box thinking, especially when it comes to my designs for things that I have in my space, as well as the space that I have created. So obviously, going to school, trying to learn as much as I can, not only about medicine, but also various pharmaceuticals, so that I can help the borrower community. Because, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, borrowers don't have modern medicine in the slightest capacity. And because they don't have modern medicine, because we don't have modern medicine, a lot of things that are completely curable are just, they can wipe us out like overnight. And so, for the most part, I've been working with that. So, going to school, getting an education, understanding how different things will react with our bodies. Medicine works mostly the same, I found, going from human to borrower size, but the dosage is different because we haven't been exposed to a lot of different medicines. They are far more potent and far more effective than like the standard, like for example, acetaminophen is usually used as a casual pain reliever if you are experiencing headache and other symptoms. You can take one or two of those as a normal, average sized human, and that will dull the pain, it will make it go away. For a borrower, not only will a fraction of an equivalent dose be more than sufficient, it can actually lead to other issues, it can lead to other problems. Same with cold medicine. NyQuil comes to mind. It is extremely potent, not only in liquid form, but also gels, tablets, pills. And I mean, we're obviously too small to actually take the normal size pill, but taking off the equivalent of what would be proportional for a human downsized. So the medicine that we require is significantly less than that of a human. But going back to the original point, what I've been into, I've had to take a break from my blog. I've had to take a break from my writing and my journaling, which is absolutely heartbreaking. It's one of my true loves, one of my true passions, what I've always gone back to, which hopefully I will have a little bit more time with the way that my education is working. I can't physically go in and take some time and actually delve back into all of that. Oh, another show that I was watching. Again, a minor digression. Dr. Stone. A lot of the science that they discuss in that show is actually extremely accurate for all intents and purposes, and has definitely helped me. All right. Yeah. Anyway, long story short, that's what I've been up to. Those are the shows that I've been interested in. Um, was it a shock when I found out? Absolutely. Um, the things that were written about, that was only a fraction of what was going on in my head at the time. I had so many doubts. I lost my sense of self. I wasn't exactly sure who or what I was, uh, being essentially child of a human, but small like a borrower. I It took a while, and it's still, I think, as I said before, it's been an adjustment for sure of balancing my two different identities. Because to the world, I am still Parker Silverstein. I'm still a completely virtual, slightly sensitive individual in more ways than one. And I am Parker the borrower, which I actually adopted my birth name, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I can't think of anybody else who it might be, which is Zeke. So for some, I'm Parker Zeke. Some people, specifically Maisie, because PZS kind of spells Pez. So she's been calling me that, and I can't get her to stop, and don't know if I want to, but that again, I'm digressing from the main questions. Yeah, I definitely had an adjustment period to go through, and I felt betrayed. I felt lied to, but also there was a part of me that knew, that goes into the next question of like, did you not question the things that were going on in your life? I did have questions. I always had questions. I could sense when my mom was walking down the hall before I heard her. I was able to fall from great distances like a cat and was able to land on my feet, or my body would just react. I'd be able to roll and tumble out of the way. I was always messing with stuff. I was like tinkering. I was always trying to get things to fit together, finding the most random things in the house. I think the most random thing that I found was the rubber that goes around a pen. So whenever you deconstruct a standard sized pen, sometimes they have the grip on the inside. And I think I had found a broken pen. I think it was like under the desk at the time, like under the drawer. I don't even know why I'd gone in there. I think I was curious. I think something compelled me to go underneath of the cabinet, which was under the desk. And this very narrow slip, I should not have gone under there, because I could have, if my mom had opened the drawer, I could have fractured my skull. I could have been crushed immediately in half. But I felt compelled to go in under there. And so when I went under there, I actually found a broken pen. The plastic was fractured, fragmented all over the place. But I saw the end of the pen, and I saw the gripper on the edge. And I took the gripper, and I think I also took the spring, and I managed to unscrew. I shouldn't have been strong enough, but I think that goes back to the borrower strength. I was able to unscrew the tip of the pen, and I used the one as a filter, not only for coffee, so I was able to set it up inside of my cup and like put little like filters in there for coffee and tea. I still have that. It's actually right over there. I constructed a handle for it. I washed it out many times so that it wouldn't be ingesting ink or residue. And then for the hand gripper, if I remember correctly, I used that as essentially like a tire. Like I sliced it in very narrow pieces and was actually able to coat, like using heating elements. I was able to use that and coat around different wheels that I had on the things that were in my workspace so that I could roll it around without scuffing the floors. And I still don't know what came over me. But I think it's one of those borrower intuition things of you see something, you want to try and make it into something else. You need it to be useful. You want it to serve more than one function, more than one purpose. And yeah, ended up using that for that. um, I'm trying to think of, I guess there were so many other instances, but I'll move on with the next questions. Do I have a favorite memory of my friends as well as my mom? So I'll individually answer those. So Bailey and Billy, I had so many different gags that I would do with them because we could all game simultaneously. That was something that I could do frequently with my friends, was online gaming, and we would get into so many shenanigans in different games when they're obviously multiplayer, so we could all get in simultaneously. Mario Kart specifically, we would have like fake cards of you could in person, like, oh, like you're only allowed to play with one hand. Oh, you can only use your pinky to steer. You have to close your eyes for the first 30 seconds. And because we were all on face cameras, so we could see each other's reaction, we were able to call each other out and use different cards. And we actually got these cards when we owed favors to one another for like helping each other on different homework assignments, or if we were right about something and it was Bailey who started it. To this day, I will die on that hill. Bailey's the one who started it because she was convinced 99% of the time that she was right about everything. And I started taking bets with Bailey. Billy gave up, I think, after the first week, but it was usually between Bailey and I, or Bailey and me. And anytime she was right about something, she got to like write a card. And every time I was right about something, I got to write a card. And she was right about a lot of stuff, but most of the time, without researching anything, I ended up being right. And that just got under her skin. So we came up with other rules, obviously, as part of this game, this virtual game that we had. But that was like one of my favorite memories, is playing these cards. And while we were playing games, having to all of a sudden use only one hand. And for me, the controller being the size of, I work, instead of using just my thumbs, I'm able to use both of my hands. So whenever they're like, oh, one-handed, I can't steer and fire at the same time, or I can't accelerate and steer at the same time. So I had to come up with some really clever ways. I practiced my flexibility and was able to push with my feet. And so that actually ended up being a card, is you're not allowed to use your toes, which they thought it was my toes, and technically it was all of them instead of just the one big toe. For Selena and Spencer, I remember Spencer specifically. I helped him play some pranks. This was when I was a little bit older. Specifically, my mom's gonna kill me if she ever heard about that, but it was prank phone calls. Or if somebody, like, he would give my number to somebody else and like, oh, like, yeah, you can call this person and find out. And I impersonated a few different people, and that was probably illegal or not necessarily dangerous, but like it was stupid. It was stupid to do at the time. But I was a stupid kid. And I think every kid at some point or another makes decisions simply because they are in the fray of friendship. Selena, the 3 minutes we were essentially dating, quote unquote, together, we as a big group had so many fun memories. I think everything that happened with her was soured when she was so insistent on finding out who I was, what I was, when I didn't even know, and had been keeping that as a guarded secret for so long. Did I ever tell any of my other human friends what I was, or who I am? This true secret. Other than Lynn, and obviously that only happened because she ended up saving me from her sister, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure her sister was arrested for intoxicated driving recently. Um, we still talk, even though things didn't really work out between Lynn and myself. We're still friends, and I think both of us realized at a certain point that even though we could make it work, and seeing Soren and Ashlyn's relationship, seeing how that works, I think we could have made it work, but there were a few things that she wanted out of life that I obviously couldn't provide. And it would just be extremely complicated for complication's sake. So it was a bit of a mutual thing. I'm still a little sad about it because I think she's a fantastic girl. I think she's going to do so many great things in her life. We just have different directions. We're two different people. We have different directions that we're going with. Uh, let's see. Moving on to the next bit. Is there anybody who I'm interested in, and who do I go for? I was having a conversation specifically with um, a few of you. Yes, I like girls. Um, Quite obviously, I like girls. I did like Lynn. I like Selena. There is somebody who I am interested in, but I don't know if she likes me in that same way. I don't want to jinx myself. I'm kind of in a weird, precarious situation with that. But anyway, there is someone who I am interested in, and now that I'm a little bit older, I understand the significance of a relationship, of having a girlfriend, having a partner, someone who you are willing to help and go and do and see and be everything with. I'm really hoping that things work out, and if they don't, then that is all right. I'm a big boy. I can move on, and between all of the different people who I'm meeting right now in my life, there are endless possibilities. I just hope that this possibility is the one that works out. Favorite books, obviously, The Hobbit, hands down, one of my favorites of all times. I've read Jurassic Park recently, and a few others by Michael Crichton. Apparently, he also came out with another book called Micro, which I'm very eager to read. I read Roadside Picnic, a very interesting concept, especially with the new Stalker game. I don't know if you guys are into alternative histories and a little bit of alien presence, but a very interesting concept. There are a few other books that are on my reading list. I've been told that there are some new fantasy books, specifically by the person who I'm interested in, that she insists that I read them, and I will endure because she's interested in it, and I want to make a good impression. Where do I get my tools? all of my borrower sized tools, Amazon and Etsy. If I don't make the tools myself, I will go online with the income that I'm making from different writing projects and other things that I do online in tandem with my work, trying to make the world a better place for borrowers by like going the medical education route. A lot of my tools and so forth are other things that I've made or that I find online. It's amazing the cookware, the cutlery, the machines that you're able to use. And even, this is something that I found out, but that even if you don't have the entire construction, like if you just have the baseline, you can still maneuver around that. I'm thinking specifically of a sewing machine. They have small handheld sewing machines, and obviously it takes a little bit of finagling in order to work one of those, whether it's the full-sized Singer or the handheld needle. If you have the baseline, they have little model sewing machines. If you rig that properly and if you have the right tools in order to get the interior mechanics working, you can actually get those to work. And I know because I have seen it. I have done it. I've made one, not a very good one, with Ray, which he and Hero both have been absolutely fantastic mentors to me, not only in navigating everything that's currently going on in my life and things that I'm experiencing, but also the inventive spirit that they possess, actually teaching me how to rig things together. It has been so great. I think everybody should have a duo like that in their lives. Moving on to any additional questions that I have. I'm still working out the symbols, the different symbols that different people, different borrowers used in order to indicate houses, like safe houses and so forth. I am flabbergasted that there's not an official like borrower written language like they use like English or the standard language, but a specific like Morse code for borrowers. I think that would be really interesting to see a community based around that. I do have contact with several humans, obviously, with my mother, with Lynn, with my now ex pediatrician. I still talk to some of my other friends. I have been tempted, that is the next question. I'm tempted to tell some of my closer friends about who and what I am, but it would take a lot to shatter their reality, and maybe they're ready for it. Maybe they always had their suspicions, like Lynn, like as I was always part of the GT community. There was another question. I think it's over here. Yeah, about my biological parents and whether or not I have put up posters or tried to find them. I'm almost ashamed to say that I haven't. Or I haven't. Let me tip enunciate. My throat got tight all of a sudden. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I'll ever be ready for that. I want to. I really do. I really want to know if they're out there, if they're alive, if they're even in this area. I might have come across them. For all I know, the my color of hair and eyes are not necessarily uncommon, but if there was someone who kind of looked a little bit like me or had the same relative behaviorisms, mannerisms, I I would like to think that I would have noticed that someone might have pointed them out. It might be something that I do. Like I said, I would like to. I don't know. It's intimidating, to say the least, to consider because on the one hand, I have a mom and she's fantastic, and even if we had a rough spot, well, we had a rough spot there. I don't think that finding my biological parents would change my relationship with my mother, with my mom. But all of a sudden introducing that, I wonder if that would make them feel guilty for not coming back sooner, or maybe they weren't able to. Maybe they thought I was gone, but someone came back and looked under the bench. Someone did carve my name with the cross um, into the bench that my mom found me under. So at least for a little while, someone was out there and someone was thinking about me. Someone knew about me and missed me. I don't know. Maybe soon. Maybe. Anyway, getting onto a few lighthearted questions at the very end, like favorite things. Um, let's see. Different games and activities. I do like the virtual existence that I am able to present online with everybody. I'm not really a fan of puzzles unless we're talking about like mental puzzles. That's different, but the pieces themselves trying to fit together, absolutely infuriating, especially the 1,000-piece ones, which are easier to pick up and grab, but there are also so many of them. They scatter everywhere. I will say I have helped my mom on many occasions to find the pieces if they fall in between the floorboards or if they get knocked under the couch for whatever reason. My favorite or first most memorable borrowing trip, obviously, I had to train with Hers in order to catch up on lost time. The family, like with all of their kids, I definitely had to get a lot of training in. There was a steep learning curve, but according to him, I passed with flying colors. I apparently have a knack for actually being what I am. Some of the tests that Kurt set up, like I had to borrow chocolate, I had to get into a cabinet and get a few sugar cubes, I had to get flour and noodles, I think, like the ramen packet. The first time where I actually went into a stranger's house, that was absolutely mind-boggling, and it still gives me full body chills, just shivers. Not only because in my mind I was, I guess, still adhering to my human self. So I'm intruding on someone else's home. I'm like, this is breaking and entering, this is stealing. And then that competed immediately with the other part of me, which was I need to practice this, I need to survive. I ended up borrowing, I think, a few paper clips and a thumbtack from the board. There was a cork board on the kitchen counter that I actually went in and got into their office supplies, grabbed the cork or grabbed the thumbtack from the corkboard and grabbed a couple of paper clips, which are surprisingly versatile and essential tools if you're going to be a borrower. Favorite foods? I This is gonna sound really weird, but I have a thing for eggplant parmesan. It sounds bougie, but something about it is absolutely fantastic. I enjoy it every single time. For sweets, I tend to go toward this more fruity sweets. I like the peach rings. It just tastes fresh and sweet. I also like mint anything. Do I have any strategies for helping me borrow? Not necessarily. I go through the mindset that I've been instilled with, which is, you take a second, you go through your checklist. If anything's missing, that's a problem, and you need to make that thing not be missing. I I like the color blue. Also, specifically like a dark navy. Yes, I do make a lot of my own clothes. I do find things from time to time online, but usually I have to make things myself. I don't know if that makes me a dandy boy, but I like it. I enjoy it. Other things that I might be interested in. Do I ever wish that I was human? That question's come up, I think, for everybody. There, I would say that's a coin flip for me. I've basically grown up as a human all my life. I lean toward yes. I do sometimes wish that I were human. That would make a lot of things very simple, and because I've grown up as a human and thinking that I was human, I do gravitate toward yes. But everything that I'm learning, everything that I'm experiencing, this is a unique experience that not everyone gets to go through. Not the identity crisis, obviously, the elements of being from one background but being something and then placing yourself in an entirely different environment. I think that has really been eye-opening, and it shows how big and wonderful and scary and fascinating the world can be. Not everybody gets an earth-shattering moment where you basically get to realize your own mortality and the vastness of the universe has never been so apparent. So I do gravitate toward yes, but the experiences that I'm getting are unique and once in a lifetime. I wouldn't change it. Did I have any pets growing up? No, I didn't have any pets. Obviously, I just lived in the two houses. I don't remember anything from where I was before. I The only thing that I remember before the boat, before like falling overboard and catching a glimpse of the person who I'm pretty sure I'm thinking she was probably my biological mother. The only thing that I remember was this tactile wallpaper. I'm pretty sure it was meant as like Christmas wrapping paper. It had this velvet in the shape of the Saint Rose, or the rose saint, the flower. The name escapes me at the moment, but there were patterns like that all over the wall. It was kind of crinkled, but I remember that. That's the only thing that I remember distinctly from before the thunderstorm, before the flood and everything. Favorite time of year, I'd have to say winter. I love the snow. I love looking at the snowflakes specifically because being so much smaller, I can actually pick up snow, and if I'm very, very careful, I can actually like hold up like discs of snow. Absolutely, depending on how big the snowflakes are, of course. Um, Trying to go through the rest of these. Some of these are duplicates. I apologize. I probably could have sorted these things out before. If I were a human for a day, what would I do? I would go to school. I would go to an in-person class. I know that sounds absolutely nerdy and terrible, but I would go to a library. I would go to the university library. I would go to a normal library. I would sit in a cafe. I would talk to people. Um, yeah, I would definitely go to an in-person class and sit if I weren't sitting in the front row, I'd probably sit in the very back just to observe everything going on all around me in the big auditorium. I'd also like to go see a concert. Actually go and join the bouncing, the mosh pit, feel that energy. Which oddly enough, there is some kind of concert going on sometime soon in the borrower community. I think Dorian is actually performing. And I don't know how he's going to do it. I'm absolutely fascinated, but I think he's going to be performing live in like the outdoor stadium that they have. Well, it's not really a stadium. It's just this big open forum area. I think he's actually going to post up in the hull of this busted guitar. But I might be saying too much. Um, oh, it's one of these. Do I like being held? When I was younger, I enjoyed it very much. There was something very comforting about it. Getting to hang on to like my mom's finger when she'd like rock me to sleep. That was one of the early memories that I have, is the way she would rotate her hand and sway it. I was swaying just now thinking about it. Yeah, I did enjoy that experience. At the time, it felt normal. It never, I don't want to say never, because there were moments where I felt little danger bells going off in the back of my head, and I just thought it was my condition, so I ignored it. But actually going and experiencing that now, like older, it feels a little bit more surreal. It feels almost uncomfortable, if that's the right word for it. Just because not only am I a little bit older now, getting to like feeling your autonomy being dependent upon someone else is a little bit odd now. Not to say that I don't like giving my mom hugs. I still hug her fingers. I have let Ashlyn and Lynn, like walk me around. I do prefer pockets to shoulders, unless the shirt has a collar that I can better grab onto. If it's just a normal t-shirt or a slick like v-neck, you underestimate how slippery those can be, and the quick movements of someone who is directly under you that could throw you backwards immediately, which has actually happened, which is why I have the security lines, and hence why I prefer pockets. That is if I have to like go around. Um, Another question: when during training with Kurz, did I ever also train with Ashlyn? Because Ray and Hero talked a lot about their training with Ashlyn, which that was an entirely whole experience. I can probably talk about that for hours. But Ray and Dorian both had specific training sessions with Ashlyn, and they told me about it, and it was scary to hear about, but I can see why they practiced the way that they did. And hearing some of the stories that they talk about is a good thing that they practice that way. I honestly think that if you are going to be a borrower, you need to you almost need a human friend to practice some of these techniques with, because like at the time whenever I'll say kidnapped, um, by that girl. I don't even remember her name off the top of my head right now, but Lynn's younger sister. When that whole thing happened, if I had the training that Ray and Dorian received, and later Hero also received, I might have been able to get away, and I wouldn't have been so careless in the moment. I was a kid. I was thinking about like, oh, there's my mom. I'm gonna go get to her. Because for those of you who don't know, I had run away from home, and it's something that I am ashamed of, I'll say. I know that hurt my mom a lot, and I wish every day that I could take that back. But at the time, it felt like what I needed to do, what was right, what I needed to get away and do something independently, and that really showed how little I knew about the world. Again, one of those humbling experiences. So yeah, I think the training was essential, and I think that everyone should go through specific training, especially when trying to get away from people. I think that's everything, honestly. Gonna go back and look through my my compiled list, make sure that I didn't miss anything. I don't want to miss anything for you guys, because again, this has been such a fascinating and wonderful community. Yeah, have I ever wanted to tell the truth to one of my other friends? Yes, I have wanted that, but I don't know if they're ready. I don't know if I'm ready. Maybe one day. Did I ever get close to accidentally revealing my identity? Definitely as a kid, when I was very young, several times. I almost slipped up. Of I was trying to describe different things, and the way that I was describing them, they were like, "How would you know that if you weren't like on the ground, like looking up?" And so I I almost slipped up several times. Um, I think that about does it. Um, some people are interested in hearing more about some other adventures, and it's definitely around the corner. I think that, or at least I hope that you all enjoy some of my next adventures. I'm excited, and according to Narrans, the physical print book is coming out in the new year. And with the physical print book, I'm very excited. I hope you guys are too, but actually having a physical print book, that will again also be a surreal experience. I know Narrans talked about possibly doing a Kickstarter or having additional merch come out with those items. I'm looking forward to it, and stay updated on the things that may be right around the corner. Hopefully, with the new year, there'll be a whole list and everything will get started off on the right foot. But with that, I think that all of the questions have been answered. I hope I did a good job, and if I've missed anything, please let me know. I'll let you know in the comments, and maybe I'll do another one of these if you want me to expand on something or another. I don't know. One of those things probably being my Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which Narrans has been hinting that they want to actually have a campaign, so maybe you'll hear my character come through. They really liked him. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing from all of you very soon. Oh, and thanks for listening, and welcome to my little life.